backyard of my childhood home, there was a crabapple tree. It was the perfect sanctuary. It was easy to climb, and near the top of the tree, the limbs and branches had twisted and shaped themselves into a comfortable bench. I remember spending many hours up in this tree, surrounded by pink blossoms, daydreaming about my future. I would imagine how one day I would grow up and live happily ever after. So imagine my consternation when I found myself grown up, married, with a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old who had managed to somehow simultaneously contract a stomach virus, surrounded by piles of dirty laundry and unfinished chores, and wondering, somewhat desperately, if this was to be my fairy tale ending. Of course, I experienced moments of marital bliss and maternal bliss. But for happiness to extend into a permanent static state required a sort of stability that was impossible to achieve. I realized that striving for stability becomes irrelevant when the status quo is change. I've had the opportunity to reflect on this concept of stability in my clinical experiences in occupational therapy. And I've learned that seeking stability does not prepare us to handle the unexpected. The world of therapy and rehab is one in which hopes of happily ever after have become inconsequential. Let me give you some examples. I've met a young man who worries he may lose his supposedly stable job because of a hand injury. I've met a husband who's lost the ability to speak to his wife of 50 years due to a sudden stroke. And I've met a mother who is faced with the reality that her special child will not be leading the life she had imagined for him, but instead requires full-time care, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 12 months of the year, for an entire lifetime. Stability implies permanence and is associated with being strong and in control, but I've witnessed immense strength and courage in people whose lives have been turned upside down. I remember that brave middle school child who, despite numerous rejections, continues to try to make new friends while managing a chronic condition and life in a wheelchair. And the resilience of a woman whose health improves and then deteriorates, and then gets better, and then meets with complications, and on in an endless cycle of uncertainty. And I'll never forget the unshakable resolve of a man who cheerfully encourages his father to work harder during a therapy session, even though he just learned that that brain tumor has grown bigger. This courage could not have originated from stability because it displayed at a time when life was clearly not stable. I don't believe that courage comes from seeking stability. I believe that courage is the result of balancing, of attempting to navigate an environment that is constantly changing. Now, occupational therapists are concerned with stability. For example, we fabricate splints to stabilize the site of an injury. We practice therapeutic techniques to stabilize the trunk or the core of the body. But stability is just the beginning. It's like when a patient is declared medically stable and is now ready to benefit from therapy. Establishing that stability is the first step, and now the real work begins. You see, occupational therapy has one crucial aim: to promote health and wellness by facilitating participation in everyday activities, or as we call them, occupations. Let's take a moment and think about the various activities we engage in on a daily basis. getting dressed in the morning, preparing a meal, driving to work, school, playing a sport. All of these activities require us to be functional. The problem with focusing on stability is that it doesn't allow us by itself to be functional. It requires an added element, movement. Function is the product of stabilizing and mobilizing. Let's talk about balance. Therapists evaluate balance in two forms. The first form is static balance. This is assessed while remaining stationary. The second form is dynamic balance, and this is determined while moving. So I like to think of balance as being inclusive because it captures stillness as well as motion. And balancing is a process that doesn't require perfection, so it has room for health and illness. It is comprehensive enough to value the glories and the achievements, and the challenges and the messiness. Balancing is accessible. It can be maintained in times of tranquility as well as in times of turmoil. The wise and beloved Brené Brown believes that vulnerability is the birthplace of courage. I believe the mechanism that translates vulnerability into courage is balance. Now, being balanced isn't as comfortable as being stable. The nature of stability is sturdy and it feels safe, and the nature of balance is erratic. But is it better to be fixed and unmoving, or to be perched and ready to fly? Let's imagine for a moment that you abandon your dream of a stable, happily ever after, and instead, you embrace balance. You relinquish your perceived control of the future. You find yourself unburdened. And for once, you are liberated from unrealistic expectations of flawlessness. You breathe and you exist on the brink of anticipation. You are ready to forge ahead, but you are also prepared to fall backward. And you are equally prepared to reach out and hold on to something or someone for support. The master Sufi poet Rumi writes, "Your hand opens and closes, opens and closes. If it were always a fist or always stretched open, you would be paralyzed. Your deepest presence is in every small contracting and expanding, the two beautifully balanced and coordinated as birds' wings." Maybe our notion of stability belongs to the realm of fairy tales with its innocent charm. And the real life, authentic, nonfiction version is in balancing, in the faltering and in the enduring, in the holding on and in the letting go, in sometimes giving and sometimes taking. Practicing balance can help us to find courage when life's journey takes us into those spaces between stability. Thank you.